So last week we looked at combining positive and negative integers, so we learned how to add them and subtract them. Today we're going to be working with multiplying and dividing them. So the goal by the end of this is I will be able to recognize a pattern when multiplying and dividing integers that are both positive and negative. When both integers are positive, we do what we are used to. So we multiply and divide the way we would normally do with multiplication and division. This is something we've been seeing in elementary school and we've been practicing when we were doing fractions and decimals. We just multiply. So for example, we've got 6 times 2. Well, if they're both positive, we can just multiply what we're used to. So that's going to be 12. And then another example would be 4 times 8, and that's just 32. So pretty easy so far, we're just multiplying. Same thing with division. So for example, we would have 12 divided by 3, or 12 divided by 3. And then we know that's going to be 4. So positive divided by positive is positive 4. And then 28, for example, divided by 4. Positive 28, positive 4 is going to give us positive 7. Another way we can write it is 28 divided by 4, positive 7. So there's a little review for you, because we should remember this from elementary school. When we're multiplying or dividing positive numbers, which is what we've been used to, what we've been working with, we're just going to get a positive answer. When both integers are negative, however, we can also multiply and divide the way we would normally do with multiplication and division. So here's why, because two negatives make a positive. So what we're trying to say here is, same thing, we can say if they're both negative, negative 6 times negative 2, it's still going to make a positive 12. And I'm going to show you why in a second. So then this is also saying that negative 4 times negative 8 is going to give us positive 32. And then with our examples from division, if we have negative 12 divided by negative 3, we're going to get positive 4. And then negative 28 divided by negative 4 is still going to give us positive 7. So one way you can think about this is by thinking about what a double negative means in terms of speaking. So if you're telling someone to not do something, you're really telling them to do it. Because two negatives next to each other just cancel out and make a positive. Another way to remember it is by looking at this triangle. So the way this works is we start at a point. So we start with a negative, so we can start at this corner. And then we can go this way, because then we're multiplying by another negative. And then we're going to end up here at a positive. So the way this triangle works is we start at one point with what we're working with, and then we move to our second point with the other number we're working with, and where we end up last is where our answer is going to be. So for example, with division, we've got negative 12, so we start at this negative point, and then we move to negative 3, and we end up with a positive 4. So this is always going to apply whenever we're working with two negative numbers. We're going to end up at a positive. I'll show you how this triangle works with when the signs are different in the next slide too. And this can work the other way too. So we don't have to start at this corner. We can also start here and move this way, because if we start at this negative and we move to this negative, we're still going to end up at this positive. So here's where it gets a little tricky. So when one integer is positive and one integer is negative, we multiply and divide like normal, but the problem is we keep the sign of the negative number, no matter if it comes first or second in the equation. So here's what I mean by that. So we're going to use our same examples, 6 and 2. So I'm going to say -6 times +2, and that's going to give us -12 because we've got the -6. Another example, +4 times -8. So even though the first example, the negative is first, and in the second example, the negative is the second number, we're still going to get -32 is our answer. Either way, the answer is going to be negative, whether the negative comes first in the first number or in the second number. So if we're using our triangle, we start at a negative. We're moving to our second number, which is a positive. And we're going to get our negative answer. Same thing the other way. We're starting with +4. We're moving to -8. And we're going to end up at -32. And here's how that looks with division. We've got -12 divided by +3. And that's going to give us -4. So we're going to start at negative over here in this corner. We're going to move to +3. We're going to end up at -4 in this corner. And the same thing backwards. If we started here, -12, then moved to +4 here, we would still end up at -4. And then same thing if the second number's negative and the first number's positive. So +28 divided by -4. So now the negative is on the bottom and not the top. It's still going to be -7 is our answer. So +28, that's our number down here. And then -4, no matter which way I move, if I move this way or if I move this way, we're still going to end up at a negative. So when in doubt, always draw that triangle and kind of move with the arrows to see where you end up. If the triangle is too confusing, then you can also remember if the signs agree, then they're going to be positive. So think about in an argument or in a friendship when you're talking with your friend. If you agree on something, then that's a positive thing, right? That means you guys agree, you guys can get along on that. If you guys disagree, then that's a negative thing, because you guys will end up arguing and fighting, and that is a negative thing on a friendship. So if it's double negative, that means they still agree, right? If they're both negative numbers, that's still a positive thing because they agree on something. But if one sign is saying positive and one sign is saying negative, that means they disagree. So that's going to be a negative thing because they're not getting along.